Hey, English 331. This is Freddie Michaels, and we're going to be going over punctuation within quotation marks. First off, we'll go with the outline. Um, so I don't know if you know, but there are differences in English rules depending on where you are in the world. And so that really applies to this topic because there are some distinct differences between how things are done in America and Great Britain. So we'll go over that first, and then we'll dive deeper into each of the different categories that you see there, with a few examples of each following. So starting off with the American versus British English rules. In Great Britain, the writer must decide if the punctuation pertains to the quotation or if it's part of the larger sentence in terms of where they're going to put the punctuation marks. Whereas in the United States, there are more definite rules pertaining especially to periods and commas and also semicolons and colons. And we'll get more into that in a minute. So on to periods and commas in quotation marks. Here in the US, it's pretty easy for this category. The rule is we always put periods and commas inside of quotation marks. Although there is one exception. If it's a parenthetical reference, like if you're doing a research paper or something along those lines, you put the period or comma after the quotation mark, or outside of the quotation mark after the parenthetical reference, that is. While in Britain, they are they go through more logical procedures of whether the period belongs to the statement in quotes or to the sentence as a whole. So one easy trick is if it's inside the US, then periods and commas go inside the quotation marks. So a couple of examples of this are going to be, or you can see those there. Example one goes over, it's a nice detailed look if there's multiple quotes in one sentence. Example two is just another basic showing of the period inside and the comma inside the quotes. And example three shows that one exception we talked about in the US, where you'll actually put the period outside of the quotation marks. So then when it comes to question marks and exclamation points, Great Britain and the US follow the same rule, which is you have to decide if the question mark pertains to the quote itself or it's part of the sentence as the whole. And as you can see there, if it pertains to the quote, then it'll go inside. If it pertains to the whole sentence, it'll go outside. So you can see a couple quick examples of each where we have a question mark inside in the first one and a question mark outside in the second one. On to colons and semicolons. So this one is back to a nice simple rule for the US, where the rule is these types of punctuation always go outside of the quotation marks. A couple of examples. You can see that the semicolon in example one and the colon in example two are both outside of the quotation mark. And then onto a little more complex subject, which is quotes within quotes. So if you have a quotation inside of a larger quotation, you'll use single quotation marks for the internal quote. Now, in terms of periods and commas, if you have those and you follow the US system, which we most commonly will, you'll put those inside of both sets of quotes. Whereas you'll have to use your other rules for question marks and exclamation points and etc. to determine from there whether they go inside both or just one. And also, just as a courtesy to the reader, leave a space between the single quote and the double quote if they're at the end of the sentence. Just makes it easier to recognize. And then here's a few examples of each. You can see in example one, that's just a nice basic example of using the double quotes and a period goes inside both of them. Then the second one shows the question mark actually pertains to the internal quote, so it goes inside of both the quotation marks. And in the last example, this is also true, but with an exclamation point. And there's a few references. Thank you.